And so tonight is going to be our summer kind of testimony night for all of the things that we went to and got to be a part of. And we're going to hear from some of the people. We've got pairs from each of the things that we went to and served at and got to be a part of. And they're going to share what all the things that we got to participate in this year and this summer. It's been a busy summer, and we're going to get to hear about all of the awesome stuff that God's been doing through us Reachers. All right, so we've got Guatemala mission trip, those two. We've got Brazil mission trip. We've got Super Summer. We've got Falls Creek. Woo! And just recently got back Barnabas. Yeah. All right. Well, let's jump right in. Question number 1. Tell us where you went and what your trip was about.
I'll go.
Okay.
Me and Emma, we both went to Barnabas, and if you haven't heard of Camp Barnabas, it's basically a church camp for special needs kids, and we had a lot of people there just during our week, and we were there during Kids Week. You basically go and you get assigned a camper, or you get to pick your camper, and you take care of them for 23 hours. You sleep in the top bunk, they sleep in the bottom bunk. You help them with whatever they need help with. They can be fully independent and do it all on their own, or they can be in a wheelchair and need you to do everything. And so we're basically there to just help them have a fun week, presenting the gospel while we do it. And I was thinking about it while we were there, like, this has got to be the most efficient church camp ever. Compared to Falls Creek, compared to all the other ones, like, sorry, but this one, like, the way that they schedule everything, we just get it done, and they make sure that we're, like, aware of every little thing, and it's all getting done. Everybody's having a good time, and, like, they make sure that the gospel is presented multiple times throughout the day. And so it was really fun. This was my third time. You've been before? Yeah. Yeah.
So we went to Falls Creek, and Falls Creek is a evangelical camp, so it focuses out a lot on outreach. And something cool that Evergreen does is when a student from youth pays to go, they can bring a friend, which I learned this year, which is really cool. So, yeah.
I'd like everybody to answer this one.
So we went to Guatemala, Casa Aleluya. Woo! So that's an orphanage it's like just outside of Guatemala City. I don't remember the name. It's just outside of Guatemala City. Anyways, it's an orphanage, and Mike and, what was her names? Dottie? Yep. Thank you. She was at Falls Creek. She wasn't even there. That's crazy. Anyways, they're the people that started it, and basically they shared their Mike shared his testimony with us of how it kind of got started. But basically, the point is Casa Aleluya is there to be a home for kids who don't have it. They're coming out of some difficult home life situations. We heard some just pretty heavy testimonies and life stories while we were there. But our goal when we were there was discipleship. And so what we did was we spent time with the older teens and the young adults that are still in the program, kind of grandfathered into the program because they're technically aged out at this point, but because they're continuing their schooling, they're allowed to continue to be supported by Casa Aleluya. So they're kind of like in a transition program. So our goal was to build a relationship with them, disciple them, and then also we did a lot with just the dorm parents. And so their entire lives is dedicated to these kids and spending a ton of time with these kids. So we got to spend time pouring into them, filling up their cup and loving on them because they spend so much of their time pouring into these kids and loving these kids when they don't have a family. So it's kind of a little bit of what we did.
Me and Chamber went to Brazil. We're split into 2 teams. So my team was kind of the traveling team. We went through like 4 or 5 cities throughout the 2 weeks, from like Toledo, Mundo Novo, Cascavel, just traveling around different cities. And I think they stayed in Cascavel the entire time, right?
A little Toledo, but
okay.
that area, yeah.
But what we both did was that we went into different schools, whether elementary, middle school, high school, college, English schools, and just kind of we shared the gospel. We put the kids answer questions they had about America because they think we're like superstars and stuff when we're not. But we just kind of used that opportunity to share the gospel with many of the kids from little small schools to giant ones. We led worship, just play games. I think we went to some churches and encouraged them also. So that's kind of what we did.
So me and Cameron went to Super Summer, and it's a camp for kids in youth group that have kind of grown up in church. They kind of know everything, or they think they know everything already. And so what this camp is designed to do is to equip them to be leaders in their youth group and in their schools, and to take the things that they learn there and kind of change their influences back at home. And so this is just a camp for 7th through 12th graders. They get put in different like schools, which is their grades, and they just get poured into all week. There's school sessions that they go to, there's breakouts, there's the main service, there's family groups, and it's just learn, grow.
Sweet. Okay, so as we've already said, all of you guys were young adult kind of sponsors for most of these things, going to participate. The mission trips were just going to help out, and then a lot of these camps were us going as sponsors. So what was the process of deciding to go on these things like, and what was the preparation like for these trips?
So preparing, I just knew that I had to just go all out into my quality time, and I wanted to just be as prepared as possible. I don't know, because I really felt like, oh my gosh, I didn't go to seminary, I'm not a pastor, like what is going on? But in my head, I just know, like, I just need to come as I am, and that's how he'll take me. And when I found out that I had to go to this trip, I've taken a spiritual test with my husband, and we kind of noticed what we were lacking the most, and what we were discipled about was if there's something that you're lacking, you should try to fix that. And the thing that I seemed to have lacked was evangelizing. And whenever someone came, Mario, who came to speak over at our reach, and he explained about what it was to be in Brazil, and he talked about, number one, evangelizing and building leadership. And right when I heard those words, I'm like, you prayed for an opportunity to evangelize, Tamber. You cannot say no, and there's an answer right in front of you. And so that was just me responding yes to God.
Yeah, so I had never gone on a mission trip before. This is my first mission trip. Whoop, whoop, super fun. Yeah. And so Jeremy White, who was our group kind of facilitator and leader, came to the Sunday school class to tell us about this mission trip that he was leading and taking a group of adults and young adults to Casa Alleluia, and he handed out these cool flyers. And I saw these kids on it. I'm like, cool. I love kids. Like, I'm there. Little did I know, Jeremy had some other plans for our focus to be more with the young adults and pouring into the young adults. And I'm going to be honest, when I found that out, I was like, kind of like what Tamber said, this is definitely going to be an area that I think the Lord's going to be growing me in, because I was like ready to show up for the kids, which was great. Definitely had lots of fun with the kids, but it was definitely an experience that I wasn't expecting. So as far as like preparation goes, I think most of it was really, we had kind of a discipleship curriculum, kind of that we prepared in advance to kind of go through the week with these young adults. But at least for me, it was kind of just like, I have no clue what I'm doing, but I'm showing up in whatever way the Lord wants to use me. And I think that was kind of like my prayer going into it and during the entire week of like, I have no clue what I'm doing, and anything that happens is totally the Lord's doing. And it was really cool to see the different things that he did through that during the week. So.
Or one other person. What was the preparation like in deciding to go?
Yeah, no, Falls Creek sounded really exciting to me, and I was asked to have a couple of responsibilities. One of the things was just to be intentional with the kids one-on-one, to be with them and build relationships and help have conversations so that the gospel could like click in real life in real time with them, not just have it be kind of a heady knowledge. And so a lot of the time that I spent beforehand, it was quite an easy yes, because it sounded exciting. It sounded different, a little shake up from the regular 9 to 5 in the wage cage. And I was like, I decided that if I was going to go to Falls Creek, I want to pray for these kids. I want to make sure that my heart is aligned with the Father's, and that if I had an opportunity to either speak on stage or have a conversation with them in person, that I would keep the gospel in mind, and that I would treat them no different than anybody else. So yeah, Falls Creek was a pretty easy yes, and
Stopped you from
get ready for it.
It's great. All right. Was there anything that almost stopped you from going?
Well, okay. So I texted Brenna a week before everyone was leaving for Falls Creek. I had originally said, no, I can't go. Circumstance-wise, I'm starting this new internship for school, and really just felt like it's not going to work out for me this year. I'll catch it next year. And then as it got closer, I just really felt like God was like, you're supposed to be there, regardless of internships going on or circumstances. And so I texted Brenna a week before and said, hey, would you have space for another female sponsor? And she texted back and said, yes, come on. And so I got to go. But the really cool part about all of that was not having had that conversation with my internship supervisor and then getting to have that conversation. She doesn't go to church. She doesn't have a church community. And so it opened up a lot of opportunities for conversation about Jesus and kind of why I would want to go sleep on a 1-inch mattress for a week and hang out with teenagers. So it was a really cool big picture moment.
Can you ask the question one more time?
Is there anything that almost stopped you from going?
Money. So Jeremy came to the Sunday school, and something wild is I knew that Brazil and Guatemala were on the map to go on mission, and I've always wanted to go on a mission trip, and I prayed Friday, was like, all right, God, these are ways out. He came like in February, I think, sometime then, and I was like, God, these are ways out, like, if you want me to go to one, you'll give me some urgency because there are ways out, and you're God, you're going to tell me where you want me to go, and I'm not going to pray about them until it gets closer. So that Sunday, Jeremy comes up super fast, like Sunday school was over, and he comes up, and he's like, so I want to tell you guys about a mission trip. It's going to Guatemala, and I was like, okay, let's hear about it. And so he talks about it, and he gets to the end of it, and he's like, oh yeah, by the way, I need your $100 by Wednesday, because we need to book these planes. And I was like, Wednesday? That's pretty urgent. That sounds like a prayer that I needed answered. And so I was like, okay, I think I need to go. So I ended up getting him the $100, but I didn't have a job at all when I felt that God was bringing me to do that. I didn't have a full-time job, didn't have a part-time job. There was no money coming in at all. And I literally went to God and was like, God, there is no way. And so through a long story, basically, I got to a point where I didn't think I was going to be able to go. And miraculously, somehow, some way, God made it happen. And I'm going to steal this from Tony. Tony told me, he said, if it's God's vision, he will provide the provisions every time. And so whenever you feel God putting on your heart to go on mission or anything like that, the enemy's going to say, money. You can't do it. You either don't have the money or you have the money and you don't want to give it up. But let me tell you right here, right now, God will make a way if that's what he wants. And so just trust that ultimately, like, whenever it comes down to it, like, we're looking at ourselves like, there's no way I can go. And God's like, what's the point here? Like, are you the point and you providing the money, or am I the point the whole time? And so just remember, whenever missions come up, he might call you. And when he does, it's God who's going to provide it, not you.
Yeah, for me, my first year going to Barnabas was 4 years ago. And before going, I had no experience working with kids with special needs at all. And I was like, yeah, there's no way I could do that. That sounds terrifying, to be responsible for another human and to just have all of their needs met. And like, it was scary to think about going and not knowing what to expect, because you don't know which camper you have until the first night. And you don't know, like, sometimes the camper cards are not completely accurate. And so you really just don't know what to expect. But like, my first year, it absolutely just changed my life, getting to go to Barnabas. And so I'd really encourage you guys, if you are fearful of going, the Lord will use that. And there's just so many cool lessons to learn at Barnabas. And the Lord is always at work there, because I feel like there's, at least with my personal experience, I've never been to a place before like that that's God's love is purely on display 24/7. And so, so my fear was what almost stopped me, but being obedient was a really big blessing, because the Lord was like, see, this is why you're supposed to go. And I was like, oh, wow, God, you're pretty cool. But yeah.
That's awesome. It's really cool, something as internal as fear being something that can keep you, or all the way to external as money. But the cool thing is God just constantly is providing while we're at home preparing for these trips, and deciding whether or not to go. The whole time God sees it all. He knows what you're being sent to go out and do, and he knows how he's going to get you there. So that being said, what was a way that you saw God move on your trip?
So about halfway through the week when we were in Mononovo, we were partnering with this one guy. He's a pastor there. I think his name is Pastor Amir. And literally everywhere we went, he led someone to Christ. And it was like he took every single opportunity. We were in the governor or mayor's office or whatever for some reason, talking to them about what we're going to do the next day. And we walked out of there, and he was leading someone to Christ, one of the office ladies. And then I got a prayer for her, and like, it was happening everywhere he went. One of the ex-mayors, who I think was during his mayor, while he was mayoring, he was also like dealing drugs and stuff. Like, we were at the restaurant, he saw him, led him to Christ 5 minutes later. It was like everywhere we went that we saw that, and it was incredible to see, because like nobody I know has done that, but he had this passion, desire that couldn't stop him no matter what the people said or what was happening around him, that he was just, God, here I am. This is all of me. Take me, do whatever you want. Send me where you want. I will say whatever you want. And like, that caused something in me to have the desire too. And like, I realized in my life how little I evangelize, how little I share the gospel, talk about my faith. And it was convicting to me to see this person who just got in a car wreck, who's basically crippled, who is super old. He's going around at the very like last of his life doing this whenever I am so young. And I don't do that at all.
When we went, it was my first mission trip I've ever been on. And I was just praying, even before we went, I was like, God, would you show me why you've brought me on this trip? I just want to know why I'm here. And like, regardless of how you use me, I just want to know, like, would you give me a reason this is why I'm here? And so Casa Alleluia, the orphanage, the kids there, from the leader of it, he told us that every kid there came from a background of like physical abuse or worse, all of them. And there's 175 kids there, anywhere from like a year old to like 25 or up. And it's really hard. But I just had a mentality of like, I'm gonna love on all of these kids. And something cool that we got to see is just putting the gospel on display, like not even inherently like sharing the gospel with these kids like every chance we get to do, but whenever we got to go like play basketball with them, they were mind blown that like adults wanted to spend time with him, that's insane to them. And like that would change and rock their world. But one of the things that God, it was day 3 that God just showed me, like, this is why you're here. I had the mentality of, I need to help all these kids. I need to love all of them. Like, I need to talk to all of them, meet all of them. But for some reason, I don't understand why. It's only because of God. There was this kid named Andres. I love that kid. Day 2, whenever we got there, day 2, we went through a tour of the orphanage, and I got to play basketball with a couple kids. And he was on this, like, he was in the background just watching us play. Keep in mind, all the kids speak Spanish. Most of them don't speak English, so there's a language barrier there. I don't speak Spanish. That'd be cool, but I don't. But it was the next day, like, I hear, like, I'm just walking through the orphanage, and he's like, "Hey, Justin." And I'm like, who was that? And so I look, and it's Andres. And I was like, "Oh, hey." And so he does speak a little English, understands more than he speaks. And so I get out of him. He said, like, basically I asked him, "How do you know my name? Like, I haven't talked to you. I haven't met you. I don't know who, like, I know who you are, but I don't know who you are." And so he said, "My name's Andres. Like, I saw you playing basketball earlier. Like, hey." And so we just started talking and just hanging out, and we go play soccer or something. And then the next day, we were prayer walking. And, like, we're prayer walking. This is while all the kids are supposed to be in school on the orphanage. And I hear, "Hey, Justin." And I'm like, there's no kids around. What is going on? Who's saying my name? And he peeks his head out of school, and he's like, "Hey." I'm like, "Go back to school. You shouldn't be out of school." And so he goes back to school. And God just put it on my heart. The next day, I was like, I need to ask this kid if he knows Jesus. I really need to. Because these kids are lacking just the love of Christ. And especially, like, from the men on the trip, like, most of these kids come from homes where, like, the dads they had or didn't have were very messed up. And so they didn't have love from male figures in their lives. And so whenever any of us, but especially whenever, like I got to love on this kid, it just changed his life. And it was the next day that I got to ask him, I was like, "Hey, Andres, like, do you know Jesus?" And he was like, "Yeah." And I was like, "Did you know that makes you my little brother in Christ?" He lost it. Gave me, like, the biggest hug ever. And later on that trip, I just got to hang out with him almost every day. But later on that trip, God put on my heart to sponsor that kid. And so praise God, like, I'm still here. And I'm not in Guatemala right now, but I get to pay a small fee of $40 a month to be able to provide for his needs that he needs there, and get to, like, send him letters and stuff, and he sends me letters. And that's been a really cool thing of, like, I'm still able to have an impact on him, but God made it so clear, was like, "Hey, you're not here for all of these kids. I brought you here for that one." That's it.
All right, this one is a little bit more personal, but what is something that God taught you personally on your trip?
One of the things that the Lord showed me at Falls Creek is that I can do nothing for him without him, and that I struggle with self-reliance, like, terribly. That in my mind, I feel if I could just know the right things to say it in the right order, if I articulate or have the right strategy, then things will happen. Results will come. You know, if I do well, good things will come. But the problem with that is you couldn't really convince anyone to be a Christian. There's a change that needs to happen in their heart. There needs to be a renewal of their heart. And what I was realizing at Falls Creek is that I just kept pulling my bootstraps up. I just kept going and doing the next thing, doing what I was like, this is the right thing to do. I'm supposed to do this. And then I'd get to the end of it, and I'd be dissatisfied. I'd feel empty. And what I realized was I was relying on myself for the change and impact in these kids instead of relying on the Lord. The reason that I could even just claim the name of Christ is through the miraculous heart change that he worked in me, that despite being lost, confused, disinterested in anything that had to do with who he was, he got my attention and redeemed me. And I believe it's in Corinthians. Paul talks about coming in fear and trembling, not with human cunning and wisdom, as not to rob the gospel of its power. And what I realized is that even though maybe I couldn't see it because I was getting in the way every single moment that I started overthinking, what's going on with this camper? I'm not sure if I actually said something that helped them, or hey, I did really well, but all of a sudden, why don't I feel proud? Just because when you do it for you, it's empty. But when you do it for the Lord, there is a sense, a supernatural fulfillment. It also says in John that when the disciples are talking to Jesus right after he has a moment with the woman at the well, his disciples ask him, hey, we got you some food. Do you want any? And he's like, I have food you don't know about. And he's like, did somebody else get you food? We're kind of confused. And he's like, no, my food is doing the will of the Father. What's truly satisfying to your souls, because you've been created and made in the image of God, is to do his will. And when you do his will without focusing on you, when you take a moment that's uncomfortable to sit down and talk with a camper that maybe kind of annoys you, and you get to see that a seed is being planted that you may not have maybe, and I think that's why maybe God doesn't let us have all these amazing miraculous salvation moments 180s every time, because he's having us trust in the fact that he's the one who's making the growth happen, not you. And so all that considered, I feel more free and more joyful whenever the focus is up here and not here. So rely on the Lord, guys. I feel like you can get lost in the church hustle sometimes. You can know the right answers and have the head knowledge, but really it is just by the power and the grace of God that we're even on this stage talking about any of this at all. So, that was something that hit me pretty hard, and I had to be real with myself on.
I think that I learned that I have to learn lessons the hard way. And so, I'll have an analogy, or I'll have something in my head that I'll tell other people, and then when it comes time for me to be tested, it's like, oh, yeah, the analogy in my head is when God shines a flashlight up a path and he shows you something ahead, and it's like, that's the big thing, and then you get so focused on it that you miss what's in front of you right here. Because he'll shine it up there every once in a while, but he's going to point it right back down because he wants you to abide in the moment. And so that was me. I was focused on what's going to happen when we get back from Camp Barnabas. There's big life stuff coming up, and so that made me be distracted. And so the first day and a half, I was not really invested in my camper, and I was just kind of zoned out the whole time. And so I had to learn that lesson of that abiding isn't, trying to plan up a bunch of stuff, or it's with what's in front of you right now. And and the book that Taylor gave out recently, or at the beginning of the year, with our theme, talking about gospel humility, there's a quote that said, if we ever were to meet a truly gospel humble person, we would walk away from that conversation thinking about, man, that person was really interested in me. And I read that after we were at Barnabas, and so I was thinking about it, and I was like, yeah, those first few days I was not interested in my camper. I was interested in me and the things that are going to happen when we get done. And I think also because it was my third year, that just by my fleshly nature, I was like, I got this. It's my third year. And so that just naturally, it just wasn't loving, and I was not loving my camper. And so that was something I learned, was like, yeah, I can say all these things. I can plan, like I was telling Cooper today, I can set up a running plan. I can choose to go, or no, I can have the idea, yeah, I'm going to wake up at this time and I'm going to get up and run. But man, when my alarm comes, it's hard. And when I start running, I'm like, this is really hard. And so that was that. It was like this, just this lesson that I thought I knew that was just sinking in deeper about what abiding in the moment looks like.
What I was going to say, though, is sounds like there's a bit of a theme here, because same. And I think it's interesting, too, because obviously, we've been talking about having gospel humility, and I think it's really cool to see that through these different things that we're doing, we're getting to put that to work. And so for me, like I said, I was going into this with the expectation of I'm going to get to hang out with kids, which is my thing. I work with kids for a living, so I was like, heck yes. And then when it came to it, had the opportunity presented to me to, he's laughing because he made me do it. We'll get there. And had the opportunity to teach one night during the discipleship kind of class that we were doing with the young adults. And when he asked it first, Jeremy, who was leading it, I didn't offer because I was like, nope, not my thing. And then he was like, guys, I still need somebody. And turns out the night that he needed someone to teach, it really, it was my testimony, basically. So I was like, feels like God is telling me to do this, and I really don't want to. So I was like, I'll do it. And I was at the end of the week, kind of. It was on Thursday. We got there, was it Sunday? Sunday? So it was kind of, I got to see several other people go before me and do this. So I was like, I can kind of, gauge it off of how they do it, and get some time to like meet the girls that were in my small group. Like I got time, and then when it came to it, I was like really struggling with like preparing and like teaching with a translator. It was just like so out of my wheelhouse. I was like trying to act like I had it all together, like guys, I got this, and I did not. And so through the week, the Lord was like teaching me more and more and showing me that like this isn't by my doing that I'm going to do this. And kind of like Dalton said, I'm stubborn. So it was like just a lot of things that like he just kept showing me gracefully. And I think that the day of when I was supposed to teach later that night, I had a conversation with someone about kind of preparing. And I remember waking up that morning thinking like, I was like experiencing all these things of like, all these people have like taught before me and they did such a good job, and like, what am I doing? And I was like, hey, Justin, you want to teach instead? And he was like, nope, that's your testimony. And I'm very thankful that he did that because I did do it. And it was a really great experience. And I got to have some really good conversations with the girls in my small group later. But continuing on from that is later, I felt like I wasn't getting the same response that the other people did. And so it kind of continued later after that, of where I was like, oh my gosh, I did so terribly. Like, no one's telling me I did a good job. And through all of that, the Lord graciously reminded me that at the beginning of the week, I prayed and asked God that he would help me do the things that he was willing me to do and having me do, and to have a humble heart and to come selflessly, and that I wouldn't receive any recognition for those things. And so when it came to it, he was like, hey, Alicia, remember when you like prayed and asked for that? And then I was like, oh my gosh, I did. And so, it was really great. But, what's that saying? Sanctification hurts so good. That's what it felt like and everything. But all in all, I think that the thing that kind of helped me see those things was too just the like community of people that was there with me, encouraging me here back, having conversations with my discipler and just people to help encourage me and see that like the whole point of all of that was to do it because the Lord was asking me to do it, and that it wasn't anything that I was going to be able to bring to the table at all. And it was, it was a growing experience for sure. And a really uncomfortable, but also really great. So, yeah.
So, to answer an earlier question, too, why did I go? I went to Super Summer. It was an easy decision because, I don't know, deciding which camp to go to and what to do, it's just clear when you know it's the one that will be the most uncomfortable. And so that's how God made it really clear to me. So the reason going into it I was feeling that way is that I've heard that Super Summer is like a really high energy camp. You've got to be, animated, and it's all about the small groups and it's about the fellowship. And that's all good stuff, but I know that I'm not a high energy person. I love one-on-one. That is my with you, Tony. Yeah. And so going in, I had that idea like, this is going to be hard. I'm going to have to get out of my comfort zone. But also going in, I had this confidence like, okay, I've done hard things before. God has come through. And so I went in with that mindset. And the first 2 days, 3 days or so, it's all training for when the students arrive. And they're showing you how to facilitate a small group and how to more or less get out of the way of these kids receiving and hearing the gospel and just letting them process it. And so we're going into that weekend, we're getting training done, and then they talk about all the things that might be hard and might be difficult and that you might have to deal with kids, bringing up difficult topics. You might have a difficult kid who's going to talk too much in the group and not allow others to talk. And so I sort of got wrapped up in just like anxiety and worry as the first day came. And that continued to be a struggle the first couple days. We met all our campers in our group and got to know each other in our small groups. The way that small groups work is they pair you with another team leader. You have like a group of 12 students. They pair you with another team leader from a different church, somebody you've never met before usually. And so here I am going into a small group, having to lead, having to get out of my comfort zone and leading a conversation along with somebody I've never met. And also the person I was paired with, she was awesome. She shared the gospel with these kids, but she was not going to lead. She was going to let me lead. And I know that was intentional on God's part because God is teaching me to be a godly man and a leader. And that takes uncomfortable situations. So going through the week, I just kept waking up really with that anxiety and wrestling with it. I'd have a quiet time, but I still wouldn't feel peace. And so I'd go on with the day. And the Lord really taught me that week through conversations with different people. Philip Jackson was there, and he really poured into me and poured into a lot of people. But one thing he said during our time when all the leaders are gathered together, talking about the classic Philip question, how's your soul? How are you doing? How are you really doing? One of the things he mentioned was how expectations can ruin everything. It can ruin your mindset going in. It can ruin how if you think it's going, if you set the bar for yourself up here perfect, you are never going to meet it. You're always going to be disappointed. But one great thing that he said was living in the curiosity of the moment. And I thought that was so well put. Instead of expecting that you're going to ask all the right questions in your small group, instead of expecting and really getting down on yourself for not doing perfect, you should instead wonder, I wonder how God is going to use me in this moment. I wonder what the next thing in front of me is. It's by God's grace that he'll use me at all. And it's just a much more fulfilling way to live life is to wonder, God, how are you going to use me to love you and to love other people right now? Not, how am I going to, be you, fulfill your role? I can't do that. He doesn't expect me to. He just expects me to abide. That is his one job for me. And that is something that I learned throughout the week. My abiding in the morning, even though I didn't feel peace in that moment, he was calling me to abide throughout the day and each moment. And it was a great reminder that that was possible. So that's what I took away.
That's awesome. I love hearing just about you all went on very different trips and experiences, but we were all learning very similar lessons. Next question. Is there anything you wish you had known before you went on your trip?
Thank you. I think I wish that I had known how much my heart would be impacted. Going into this camp, I'd gone as a student like every year that I was able to, but this was my first experience as an adult, and it was very different. There was a lot of situations that I encountered where reliance was like, I just had to. There was no way around it. And I had kind of a similar experience as Cameron where I was with ninth graders, and in the ninth grade group this year, they decided to do all girl groups and all guy groups. That's usually not the case. And I was with this really sweet girl, but she was just kind of struggling she was struggling with like freezing up during our family times, and so most of the leading was kind of put on me, and I wasn't expecting that. And so I really had to learn how to rely on the Lord in those moments even more than I thought that I was going to. And so I think I learned a lot about who the Lord was and how to take myself out of situations in leading, but not having that not be the expectation. I was going in expecting someone older than me, expecting someone who knew more than I did. I was like, guys, like my wisdom lacks, like someone please help. And that wasn't necessarily the case. And so having to rely on the Lord in a different way was a really beautiful experience. It was hard, it was difficult. But not having that expectation kind of reliance kind of set me up for success in a way of like, well, I wasn't expecting to rely, but now I am, so what can I learn in this? And so even though I didn't go in knowing that that's what was going to happen, and I knew to an extent of like, of course you're going into a situation, you need to rely on the Lord, but I thought that I would be able to rely on people a little bit more as well. And since that didn't end up happening, there was just a sweet reliance that I learned in the Lord. So.
Somebody else. Something you wish you'd known before you went on your trip.
I feel like a lot of the times, like going to Barnabas, you kind of have the expectations that some campers will be a little bit more challenging than others with like behavioral things. And so usually my brain is in the mindset of like, okay, you know, we're going to love these campers as much as we can. Like it's honestly a good example of the gospel, like loving this camper, even though maybe they're having a hard time, just like God loves us when we're going through a hard time. But a lot of the times, every year, I have to remind myself my frustration usually comes with like either like something with another missionary or a staffer. And I get in my head and I get frustrated and irritated and just so mad. And then I realize, why am I not giving them the same grace that I give the campers? And that's just a lesson that I have learned every single year that I've gone to Barnabas of just like, you know, we all get tired at camp. There's like that one like rough day at camp where everyone's just tired and cranky and whatever. But I feel like, again, this year, I had to work through that frustration to be like, okay, I'm called to be gracious and show kindness to everyone, even the missionaries and staffers, and I can't just make exceptions because they're not the ones that we're technically serving for the week. And so that was a really another lesson, but the same lesson that I've learned multiple years at Barnabas. And yeah.
All right, last question. What would you say to someone who is thinking about going or someone who has never gone on a mission trip or to any of these camps?
One thing I'd say is this. We live in a place in Oklahoma, Tulsa, Oklahoma, where it's incredibly normal to be a Christian. And there's a lot of times where you can kind of just walk it and talk it in a way, but the rubber never really meets the road. What I think was so great for me and what I would encourage you guys in is that when you go to serve at a youth camp, it becomes real. The gospel affects people's lives. It isn't just something that we talk about. It's something that people need to hear because there are kids that are lost, kids that do not know the Lord. and to have a moment where that settles in, when that's your mission, to present like the Lord's love for them, that's huge. It's so important. Sometimes in my own life, I get so caught in the motion of going to church, going to Reach, doing all these things that it exists all in here, but I don't really consider the weight of what it looks like to be separated from God, the weight of the dark things that teenagers do struggle with. Sometimes they can be annoying and stinky, and sometimes they need you. Like, they need you to show them the Father's love, and that there is a God, and that it isn't a distant, cold God that's just about, crunching numbers, but he is there, and he's ready to move, and he's willing to move, and if you get out of the way, he will use you, and you will see how prayer, how the word, the spiritual disciplines, all of that clicks, all of that makes sense. We don't just do this to stay out of trouble, or it's just the right thing to do. We do it because we're transformed by his love, and that can't help but have a ripple effect. And so that's exciting. That's a life that I want to live. That's a life with purpose, a life with joy in the midst of trials. So guys, go serve. Go get out of your comfort zone and do something that you will see the Lord move. And yeah, I think it's awesome. I think it's great.
I'll be brief. Being a skeptic does not produce anything for the kingdom, and I learned that because I was a skeptic about missions. I thought, man, these people really like going on vacation. They want to go do something else, something fun, and they love talking about themselves about it. That's all dumb, and the Lord convicted me of that. But I didn't realize any of that until I just leaned in and started actually listening to him and abiding where I was, and then he slowly started changing things, and soon will change other stuff. It's not about us, and it won't be about you when you go either. Praise God, because you'll mess it up, but he's there. And stop being a skeptic like I was. It's full of joy when you actually just say yes to whatever he's trying to tell you.
Something I want to encourage you guys, I love saying this and living by this, is to stay ready. And if you're not ready to go, then get ready. Example, if you want to go on a mission trip out of the country, get a passport. Like, you don't have to be called to go out of the country to go on mission to get a passport. I spent like $185, got it in a month. If there's a mission trip through whoever, especially Evergreen, that's coming up in like 2 weeks, and you don't have a passport, God's probably not going to call you to it. But if you have a passport, at bare minimum, you're available to go. You can physically go because you have the passport. So if you want to go on an out-of-country mission trip, get a passport. Be ready. Another thing you can do is you can start now, before you even know God's called you to go on a mission trip, start setting aside money for that trip. You may not even know where you're going to go, but if you have a bank account set for money that's not for you, or money to go on a mission trip, God's probably going to use it. Probably. He's going to use it. Another thing is, if you don't have a passport, if you're not ready for that yet, you can do mission work here. Y'all, Nightlight Tulsa is awesome. It happens basically every Thursday night in downtown, and we get to go share the gospel with the homeless who have been through some hard stuff. And you want to talk about, like Cameron said, being uncomfortable? Oh my gosh, you are going to get real uncomfortable real fast, because some of those people have come from rough stuff. And a lot of those people come from scenarios that aren't their fault. Like, typically, as we've grown up in either Bixby or Broken Arrow, nice places, we look down on them, and it's like they're there because it's their fault. It's like, no, there's many of them, it's not their fault. They were just dealt the wrong cards. But you get to go to them and be like, hey, you know the Father that loves you so much that he's given his son, Jesus Christ, to die on the cross and raise from the grave to promise you eternity with him? And you can start living with him now? And he can save you from all of this if that's what he wants? It's like, you don't have to go on a trip to Guatemala or Brazil to do that. It happens every Thursday at night like Tulsa, let alone if you don't have like a heart for those people. There's so many mission opportunities. Please talk to Taylor or Josh or Taylor or Austin or one of us up here. We're going to point you to someone who knows someone on how to get on mission now.
I'd say the main thing that just shows why God calls people, has called me to go to Barnabas, is just every time I see the gospel through my camper. And like I can think this past week specifically, my camper, she was nonverbal, which can be pretty intimidating because sometimes there's communication issues, but it's like there's really big communication things, which you learn being with the camper, like there's different ways to communicate. But my camper this past week, she was literally the sweetest person I've ever met, and just had such a kind and just genuine spirit. And like throughout the week, I could just see Christ's love through her. And while she couldn't necessarily articulate the gospel or have those kind of conversations with me, it was just so evident by the way she acted around others. And that really just reminded me that I also need to do that same thing and show love and kindness to the people in my life, and to share the gospel with them, and to be genuine and think about myself less, like Taylor's talked about with gospel humility. And there's just been story after story every single year about, like, I don't know, maybe we had a rough week at Barnabas, but then the one gospel conversation we had, I finally had the attention of my camper, and they were invested in the gospel conversation, and that instantly made the week completely worth it. And so I would just encourage you guys, if you're scared to go, or you think, oh, that's not my thing, or I don't have experience, so I wouldn't go, just go. God will show up. He'll show up in so many ways. And even like the hard weeks that I've gone to Barnabas, the Lord just moves and just changes your heart, and just gives you a heart for the people that you're around.
All right, anyone from this area who might answer for someone who's thinking about going, or someone who's never been on a trip before?
So I would say if you're using being too shy or too scared, you don't think you have the abilities to do it, just stop saying that, because it's not true. I would outwin you in that argument any day. For those of you who knew me when I first came here, I was the quietest person you'll probably ever meet. And then people like Jacob Hadley, AJ, Lily broke me. And now I actually talk. So, like, it's not an excuse. Like, God will use you in your broken form. He uses us. We're so broken, he uses us how he wants to use us. He takes the mess and he makes it beautiful. He's sanctifying us through those things. So just have open hands about whatever he wants you to do, and he will use that. No matter what you think it might look like, he sees something different than you see, because he sees what he wants to see. He sees what you will be in the future, and he's taking what you are, and he's going to use you in whatever state that you're in. And he has plans for you, and plans bigger than you can imagine. And it's all for his glory. It's not for us. Like, we don't get a say, like, we've been crucified with Christ. It's no longer us who lives, but Christ lives in us, and we live for him now. It's not our lives. We don't get to choose where he sends us. He sends us. We go. We love who he says to love. We do what he says to do. It's not our lives that we're living anymore. It's for him and for him alone.
That's great. All right. Well, that is the questions that we have. So give it up for our panelists. All right. Yeah. So as you all can tell, a lot of serving went on this summer. These people got to experience so many different things, pouring into others' lives. But as you heard, it's not just pouring into other people's lives and them being filled up. Clearly, these people who have gone on these trips have also been filled up in so many different ways, and God has been just teaching so many different lessons, very similar lessons, because we're all similar, we're all sinful. But just be thinking about that, about just how good it is for us to serve, how good it is for us to sacrifice our time as we go out and to serve other people and to serve on missions and the camps that we have. Also, we're the young adults of this church. None of us, most of us, don't have kids. We don't have families that we're having to take care of. Be thinking about the opportunities that we have every summer to sacrifice our time, to go serve the youth of this church, to go on missions and serve people. This is the time of our lives, one, to serve because we have the most time, but also clearly God is laying foundational lessons in these people's lives, lessons that we all need to be able to learn as we have a lifelong ahead of us of serving the Lord and Him teaching us lessons. Now's the time to get out and give the Lord that time and serve Him and also be filled up ourselves.
Hey guys, this is Matt O'Mealy, pastor to young adults at Evergreen Baptist Church. I want to invite you to come to Reach. We meet every Tuesday night at 7 p.m. at Evergreen in South Tulsa, just east of Mingo on 111th Street. The mission of Reach Tulsa is to cultivate a young adult community that is defined by real transformation and the sincere pursuit of a godly life through training in biblical disciplines, personal development, and intentionally transitioning into independence as mature members of the body of Christ. If you enjoyed this episode, please be sure to like and subscribe to our content. We are available on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and wherever you find your favorite podcasts. Reach Young Adult Ministry is a part of Evergreen Church in Tulsa, Oklahoma. For more information and additional lessons, please visit our website, evergreenbc.org.